Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from Maryland in the US is Anna Mbengam. Hey, Anna. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Vasquez. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here. So Anna is an accomplished Scrum Master and SAFe coach since 2018, thrives in diverse industries like personal investments, healthcare, food and beverage, and banking. She's authored 5 self-published guides aiding aspiring Scrum Masters, and we'll put the link to those in the show notes, so pay attention to that. And her mentoring has transformed 200 plus professionals into highly effective individuals for any organization. Anna, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Yes, thank you for that question there, Vasquez. So as you've read, my name is Anna Mbengam, also known as your favorite Scrum Master, aka Staff Sergeant Mbengam. So I got into the Scrum without any prior guidance or knowledge when I first started. So I decided before I came into Scrum, I was a social worker. As a social worker, I worked for the Department of Children and Family in Massachusetts. I realized that I wanted more. I wanted more flexibility in how I used my time. I realized that I had leadership tendencies that I wasn't leveraging in the environment. So I started doing research. And a friend of mine who was in database engineer, administrator recommended with my personality, it will align more with Scrum. And that was the first time I ever heard of it. I decided to do my research and I fell in love. I saw so much alignment in it. I realized that, okay, this is the path I want to go. So while I was still a social worker, I decided to take a course on that and start networking in the community. And I finally found my first opportunity. Then I became a Scrum Master, and I will probably share some of the challenges that I faced being a Scrum Master for the first time. However, I realized that being in the military, what was really able to help me in this space was that I was in the military. I am still in the military. I'm still in the military. So everything, how the military is designed, is just designing the framework itself. And I started to realize it was like that aha moment. And it made it 10 times easier with my background in social work and as a soldier. I was able to really ramped up in the space and started, which is why I started writing books based on my experiences. Because when I started, there wasn't much practical guide on, hey, this is how you talk to a product owner. This is how you talk to other Scrum Masters, or this is how you talk to team members. This is how you resolve certain conflicts that are happening on the team, right? So those guides were even guides that I started using myself when I was going into different jobs in my career so far. So I hope that gave you a little perspective about that.
Absolutely. And that's a very interesting background, of course. And as we dive into your stories, I'm sure the background will come up again. Yes. And today's Monday here on the podcast. So we talk about the failure story, because failure is part of our growth. And we should, instead of avoiding it, we should be eager to learn from it. And that's what we are right now, Anna. So tell us first that story, and then we'll dive into the insights later, but tell us the story first.
Sure, absolutely. So this story is essentially coming from a startup company that I work for as a Meta Scrum Master. A Meta Scrum Master, just to translate it now, is the Scrum Master. So it was the first time taking out this role, and it was a high stake expectations or from stakeholders project that we're working on, and everything seemed to be just going fine as it always does. Until one day, a developer decided to take another opportunity. And the reason for them taking another opportunity outside of the organization essentially was because they they weren't aligned with where the CEOs were taking the company, right? And once they decided to leave, then I realized that the team was not as self-organized as they should have been.
Can you give
And
us a concrete example of what that looked like for you at the time, that the team wasn't as self-organizing as they should have been?
Absolutely. For example, because this developer had so much industry and experience, right? What it looked like for me was there's a lot of reliance. Whenever there's a meeting, backlog refinement, or a planning session, if this individual is not in the space, then it's almost like it couldn't go forward. And even when I came into the picture, I also realized that if I wasn't into the space, the meetings were not happening. It's almost like Anna is not here today, so okay, well, retrospective will not get done. Right? Or if the product owner, for example, didn't essentially start with the goals. Nobody will bring it up to the product owner's attention that we don't know what is happening. Everybody just go with the flow. So that was how it looked like from a perspective wise. Everybody was just going with the flow. And then realizing at the end, when we're getting into the demo and doing a review, realizing that they didn't quite understand, right? And mine, I had just been in this organization less than a month or so that I was able to pick some of these things up. And then to to my surprise, I didn't realize how impacted this would have essentially be for the overall team and engagement for them.
So what started happening then? Like, so the
So,
developer left and you saw this, call it anti-patterns that you just described. What happened after that?
so after that, there was skill gap, right? So people were in the meeting, and there was not a subject matter expert that essentially could help.
So that was the developer that had left? Was that developer kind of the expert about nearly
Yes,
everything?
yes. So the team morale absolutely went down. So there was not much engagement. Essentially there was going to be delay, and when we're delivering, of course, with all this commotion that is happening. So those are some of the things that sort of happened. Team morale, potential delay for the project that we're working on that needs, and then the skill gap that started emerging itself into the work that we're doing. So how could we see that, right, in retrospective? Yeah, how can we see that in retrospective? The team members would essentially some would voice out, some would not say much, right? Because they're the ones on the team, as we all know, the team members that are very vocal, and then the teams that are really quiet, almost like spooks, silent contributor on the team. So one thing that really had helped in that communication was a question that I popped out to them and said, if we don't like how it is right now, what would be the best way to move forward? Right. So he started getting them. So, and instead of having a bigger group session, it was more of a smaller group session to start getting them into talking, even to get the people that weren't into that much into sharing information. They were more now, hey, you're going to be you're going to be the lead for this conversation. And Tony, you're going to be the lead for this. And Anna, you're going to be the lead for this. And then at the end, we have about 15, 20 minutes. By the end, come back. Let's discuss some more, right?
So they started kind of distributing ownership of certain topics.
Correct. So in that retro, there was different topics. There's pinpoint topics that I've already reviewed throughout our 2 weeks of working together, and the gap that we have, right? I brought it to their attention and said, these are the things, this is how we're going to focus our time today, to focus on solving these different problems. So they do a rotation. So the retro is about 90 minutes. So they did a rotation on those topics. So at the end, we brought it back together and say, how can we move forward from here? Right. So that was the way I took to help navigate that process. At the same time, it was the way for the team to realize that, okay, we need to have a knowledge transfer session. moving forward, right? We cannot keep working in this manner. Also, we need to be able to better communicate. Even though now we're communicating to the chat, the channel on Teams, maybe now we can have a group chat where we're always in lockstep with what is happening, right? Essentially,
And were all of those ideas coming from the team, from stakeholders, from yourself? How was that?
The team. So we focus on the team, and they're ones that I believe would absolutely help them. So I help nudge that idea forward. Example being if they wanted a knowledge sharing session, yes, I see value in that, right? When do we want to do it, right? I will schedule the first one, and we can decide how we want to move forward from there, right? That type of, and then retention. That was something that myself and product owner took away from the conversation to talk to leadership, because there's only so much that the team can be able to learn and develop at the same time. So we took that away from the team to be able to figure out with leadership, hey, this is the deliverable we have. This is the skill that is needed. When can we get somebody to fill this spot so that we can help, accelerate the production for the team?
Absolutely. And that's actually a very important aspect, right? Like not just helping the team reflect and come up with ideas, which you did, but also to listen to what is going on that they can't solve, and then directly engage with stakeholders to help them realize, okay, this is an area where we need your help. Like we can't do it. Like recruiting would be a great example of that. I think that's a really great story of how we can start with a team that has trouble self-organizing, and through this continuous small conversations and focusing on what we're not happy with and how could we improve it, kind of move the team forward using their own ideas. And I think that's also a very important aspect, because when it's their idea, they are motivated to put it into practice.
Absolutely. And to your point, the question was, to me, I saw that as a failure from my part when I first got in, because I felt if I already knew, right, the importance of having cross-functional teams and collaboration and communication, that was something I could have at least tried to, focus on up to that point. And I felt in that sense, I sort of like failed the team. However, it was an opportunity for us to learn how to move forward from there.
Absolutely. Great story. Thank you for sharing that, Anna.
Absolutely.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.